Kathleen Leslie, reporting for Trailblazer Media. The Nervy Novices has been on hiatus, but it's making its comeback soon. The Nervy Novices, created by Piper Lucky, is a comic that follows Jasper the Fox and their adventures of navigating AACT. Throughout the comic, Jasper encounters many different dilemmas as a high school student would. Piper works towards creating a fun comic that an audience can relate to. Together we'll get to see behind the scenes of the comic and how people are feeling about its return.
I really wanted to make something that wasn't just fan art of something I really enjoyed, and I wanted to make some characters, like real characters that I could flesh out and truly mold like clay, kind of make my own kind of art piece. So I talked about it with my teacher at the time, which was Miss Robinson, and she was telling me, why don't you make a comic? Comics are always interesting to people, you know, it gets people hooked. So I was like, that's a really good idea, and I'd never made a comic before, and all my previous attempts, I kind of was like, wish-washy. I was like, I don't really know how to make a comic, but it really was worth the payout, because eventually it forced me to write stories. So it was not only going to help me create stories as an artist, but it was also going to help me show my passion for character design and cartooning, and I was just really happy to be able to give something back to the school. At the time, I was very lonely, and I wanted to find something that I could be like away from, like my own group of friends, so I reflected what I wanted in a group of friends. Like, I truly wanted something like that. So I was really reflecting what I wanted into my school and then giving it to my school.
Piper goes on to explain the importance of having supportive figures when pursuing an ambitious endeavor such as a comic, and how finding out how her art impacted others impacted her in return.
Mainly my friends and my teachers. So I've had a few teachers like Mr. Wilhite, Miss Robinson, and Mr. Rogers. They've really been big fans and big supporters of the comic throughout the whole thing. Mr. Rogers I didn't even know was a big fan. Personally, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Because I designed a t-shirt, and Mr. Hambright, who's also been really supportive, helping me make merchandise to sell to the school, he was like, you need to ask this teacher and see if he wants one, because he's a special size. And I was like, oh, sure, you know. I never even talked to the guy before. I walked into his classroom and I'm like, do you want this t-shirt? Like, I don't know if you read my comic. And he was like, oh, yes, I do. Sign me up right now. And I was like amazed. I was like, I never even knew that someone like outside of my personal space would be reading my comic. So it made me really happy, and it made me feel more inspired as an artist, because I was like, it's not just what I see, it's more out there. Most people aren't very vocal about what they like, and I've always been kind of in my own head, because I'm like, dang, I always put whatever I like, I put it on my shirt. I put it on my sleeve. I'm like, guys, this band, I love it. I wear it all the time. Like, you guys know this. But like, no one does that, really. So I find it hard to like think outside of my own head and be like, there's more people who like it. Because when I was really down in the dumps about the comic, I was like, no one reads it, no one talks about it, no one likes it. But now that I like met him, I saw what he really enjoyed about it, I was like, you know, there's definitely more fans than people that talk to me. So it made me really inspired. But my friends, they're really good at bouncing concepts off of me. My friend Logan, he's really great at putting a story together. So he'll take like one piece that I threw in and he'll tie it all together to the rest. And my friend Avery, she's great at writing scripts. So every time I needed some help figuring out the right words or whatever just didn't sound right to me, I'd go to her and she just instantly fix it and make it perfect. And Sam, he's always been extremely passionate about it. He makes a bunch of memes, he makes all kinds of stuff that makes me just like happy to know that someone's like really looking into the comic and seeing what's deep underneath it, besides just like these sad little slapstick jokes. Like, they're looking into it and seeing that there's more characters to be found here and it'll be more developing as it goes. So it's really good to just have a group of people who are very supportive of you and make sure that you're keeping on the right track and checking in with you. Sam was especially like that. He was like, are you working on the comic? And I'd be like, I don't know, am I? Like, I don't really know what I'm doing. But he's always been there, very supportive person.
Piper then goes on to provide some insight on how she creates the Nervy Novices, and she explains her perspective on character design.
Whenever I'm making a character, I usually think about their personality first, and then I reflect that in the animal. So like, if we're gonna have someone who's really like clumsy and big, and they're just kind of fumbling everywhere, you might want to do like an elephant or something. Like any personality type that you kind of picture, you can really picture an animal that goes alongside it. Like a cat, they're kind of sassy, they're kind of like moody.
Piper shares how the Nervy Novices will be released in a new style with hopes to create more interest in the comic. She also goes on to explain multiple ways to access the comic.
The Nervy Novices is going to make a return like mid-November, maybe later, or sometime in December, because it's going to be in big parts. So I'd usually release one comic about a week, and that just never worked. It would push the story way too slow, because I have a lot of things I want to happen. So like having this whole one-day event go on and on and on, I was so sick of it. So that's why I think I hit this block with writing, because I was like, it's going on way too long. So I needed to finally, I was like, I'm gonna kind of light the fire under me and get this pushing more and more. So I have like a set of, we're gonna see a set of stories that are released. This one is going to be a really big one, but divided into different parts to keep you interested. So I'm going to release around 5 around each week, but we're going to see a lot of posters around the school. We're going to have a lot of people helping me push this out. I've got teachers who are going to help me promote it. I've got all kinds of stuff that's going on. If you want to read the comic, you can really just go to the website, which is nervynovices.weebly.com, but you can really just Google Nervy Novices and the first thing to come up. I have an Instagram page, which is Nervy Novices AACT, which is where I release actually sketches and stuff, where people can actually see some sneak peek kind of things. And if you're on the Remind, you actually get the comic a day earlier. So if you go to the Remind and you go to NN Comic, that's the code, you get the comics one day earlier than everyone else. So it's kind of good to be in the loop. And I always send out information through there as well. But on the comic page, there's a blog where I post things where I can give you guys updates. So if you're like, I really don't want to like wait and linger on what's going to happen because I need to know like when's the next comic coming out, I will go on the blog and I'll say, okay, here's the next set of comics that we're gonna see. It'll be out by this. I'll have specific dates. But truly, I think the best place to find the comic is the website, just because there's all kinds of stuff you can look at on the website even when you're done. Like I have a test I coded, which is where you can see which Nervy Novice you are. I have a bunch of extra content, like past posters I've made, all kinds of interesting things that you can interact with. But in general, I'm just excited to get this whole thing rolling again and trying to push myself to keep with this schedule.
Lastly, Piper explains where to buy Nervy Novices merchandise and the benefits of purchasing it.
If you guys are interested in finding any of this merchandise and supporting the comic, and it also supports the academies here at ACT, you can go to the student store and you can buy some stickers. They're only $1. You can also get a shirt in your size, any of them. They're purple. They have a really fun design on them. They're only $10, so really supports me and the whole comic, and it'll be really great for everyone, and I would love to see anyone in a shirt. Send me a picture and I'll put it on the website.
The Nervy Novices made its way around the school due to its charm and unique style, and eventually reached people who Piper would have never expected.
I found out about it from a bunch of comm arts students. They were talking about this amazing artwork that I had to take a look at. And when I went down to look at it, I noticed that it wasn't just artwork, that it was actually a comic book. And then I started to read the comic book and realized it was an amazing comic book. I am so hyped and stoked for the return of the Nervy Novice. I could not be more pleased, and I hope to see a special character in there for Mr. Rogers. That'd be awesome.
Overall, there's a lot to look forward to with the Nervy Novices coming back from its hiatus. I'm Kathleen Leslie, signing off for Trailblazer Media.